Yeah. Yeah. Yes. I told. Yeah. Yeah. I told a stranger had sexually abused me. I don't know them. Which is why I said a stranger. Exactly. Yes, a stranger had used my marriage license certificate identity. Exactly. Yes, some people who worked at the court said if a stranger had used my marriage license certificate identity and had came inside of my household, you know, and you know, if a stranger was using the identity of my marriage license certificate and sexually abused me inside of my marriage license certificate household, then it is a crime. They say is what the stranger did to me. Exactly. Yes, the same way. The exactly. A 19-year-old stranger, I don't know the age, because if it is a stranger, then the stranger claimed being 19 years old. And it seems the stranger used the identity of my marriage license certificate. And it seems the stranger falsely claimed being related to me personally. Exactly. Why do I think it's a stranger? They say, you know, if a stranger was claiming being 19 years old and knowing me, then a stranger would know August 31st, 2004, I was the only one with a source of income inside of my first apartments in the city of Warrior, Alabama, you know, having a marriage license certificate of evidence of a marriage, you know, being the head of my household in the year of 2004, which is the same household I lived in July 18, 2006. Would be what a stranger would know if a stranger know of me. And you know, they say there would be no way of a stranger, you know, if inside of a courtroom telling lies, you know, of where I was and where I'm at without the stranger getting in trouble for what they say is defamation of character, slander, and possibly sexual abuse is what they say the stranger did to me. If the stranger, you know, was one of the strangers who was inside of my household, you know, and had sexually abused me. Exactly. Exactly. Because they say the stranger would need evidence of my identity. And since all of my records of where I was and where I am at match what I say of where I was, then if a stranger said any different, it would be a lie in a courtroom, and the stranger would be in trouble for defamation of character, they say, and slander, because it is abusive to me. And if a stranger knowed me, a stranger would know. I have been a mental health patient, you know, ever since elementary school. And in middle school, it was some of a claim of a car accident when I was in 6th grade. Yes. Because the 6th grade school year was over, and then it was the summertime of the 6th grade, and it was a claim of a car accident, and, you know, my leg and stuff and all of that stuff happened to me of a claim of a car accident or in the summertime of the 6th grade. And then, you know, being physically having a disability, if a stranger knowed me, a stranger would know I am not the cause of the problems a stranger caused, you know. Exactly. Yeah, and they say it's the same way. A stranger claimed to being 17 years old, and a stranger claimed, you know, being related to me. And they say, you know, the stranger has no evidence of being related to me. Because, you know, they say inside of a courtroom, if the stranger knows me, the stranger would need evidence of, you know, saying who I am. And so the stranger, you know, exactly. Yeah, exactly. if the stranger knowed me, then the stranger would be saying, Brandon, was the, only one with a source of income when Brandon moved into his first apartments in the city of Warrior, Alabama in the month of May in the year of 2004, which is the same apartments Brandon lived in July 18th, 2006. Because, if a stranger, claiming being 17 years old, claimed knowing me, or claimed being related to me, a stranger would need evidence of, my identity, and since my identity, matches the, places I was and where I'm at, telling the truth. And then if the stranger had a different story, the stranger would look like a liar and be in trouble, they say, for, causing problems to me. The problems of being abusive to a person who's been a mental health patient. Myself, ever since elementary school, I've been a mental health patient. So it makes no sense, if a 17-year-old stranger was telling lies of my character, Exactly. Yes, because they say a police charge is a crime if, a stranger was telling lies and wrote down lies, and charged a person, and charged the stranger with a crime, and the evidence does not match the character of the stranger. Exactly. No, I don't know them. Exactly. Yes, they say it's the same way. A stranger was claiming being 15 years old and claiming being related to me and claiming knowing me. They say it's the same way. There's no evidence, they say. Because, if a stranger knowed me, and if a stranger claimed being related to me, if a stranger know of me, then a stranger would know, I was the only one with a source of income October 6, 2008, inside of the apartment I was in, having a marriage license certificate. And, being the head of household, of the apartment, when it was October 6, 2008. And then a stranger would know, of my identity, if inside the courtroom a stranger was claiming knowing me and the story of the stranger did not match, of what I say, of where I was and where I was at. You know, because all of the evidence, they say, matches exactly what I am saying of where I was and where I was at. So, you know, it's crazy. The strangers had abused me and claimed being 19 years old, 17 years old, and 15 years old is what the strangers claim to be, you know. And the strangers claim being related to me. And the stranger's story does not match of where I was and where I'm at. You know? Because, you know, if a stranger knowed me, a stranger would know August 31st, 2004, I was the only one with the source of income, you know, inside of my household, you know, me personally. Having an apartment in the city of Warrior, Alabama in the year of 2004, you know. In the month of May is when I moved in. Having a marriage license certificate, you know, in the year of 2004 is evidence of a marriage. And it was the same address, you know. August 31st, 2004, July 18th, 2006. A stranger would know. If a stranger knowed of me. It was the same way a stranger would know I was the only one with the source of income October 6, 2008. You know, inside of the apartment where I was the head of household, you know. So a stranger would know, you know. If a stranger knowed me, and if a stranger was claiming being 19 years old, 17 years old, and 15 years old, they say a 15-year-old stranger is old enough for talking in a courtroom. They say a 17-year-old stranger is old enough for talking in a courtroom. They say a 19-year-old stranger is old enough for talking in a courtroom. So if no evidence of the stranger, you know, if the evidence of the strangers makes no sense and does not match the story of where I was and where I'm at, then it seems the 19-year-old stranger is a stranger, and the 17-year-old stranger is a stranger, and the 15-year-old stranger is a stranger, and I don't know them, and there's no evidence of them knowing me. Which is why, you know, I told strangers was using the identity of my personal marriage license certificate, you know. After all my works, you know, of being head of household, year after year after year, you know, after all the physical abuse did to me, being the youngest inside of a household I grew up in, and after all of the sexual abuse did to me, you know, because ever since elementary school, I was sexually abused, being the youngest inside of a household. And you know, I told, when I was an elementary school student, I told, and everybody know when I was a, you know, middle school student, of the visible physical disability of my leg, of claims of accident and all that. So it's crazy, you know, the claims strangers made and told the lies against my household, you know, speaking of myself personally, you know. So it's no way of, you know, naming names or accusing, you know. Hold on, I gotta say this. And you can listen because, you know, I'm recording my phone call. I am not speaking about anyone directly. I'm not speaking about anyone indirectly. I'm not speaking in a code. I'm not speaking in a way of reading between lines, or I'm not speaking in a secret message. This phone call is recorded of me telling my personal story of my character, of being abused, of what happened to me. You heard? Okay. Yeah. We So you're saying a stranger did bad to a stranger? I don't know them. Watching my videos. Oh, you said a stranger tried copying and following the ways of my God? And got in trouble? It makes no sense. Got in trouble for what? No. Because if a stranger was following the ways of my God, it would be no point of getting in trouble for following the ways of my God. What happened? So saying a stranger was inside of a hotel room is what you're saying? Mm-hmm. And the stranger had a marriage license certificate is what you're saying? Mm-hmm. Yes, I have a marriage license certificate. And a stranger was claiming being married to a stranger, is what you're saying? Mm. And it was two people inside the hotel room claiming being married to each other, is what you're saying? Mm. I don't know the two people who was inside of the hotel room claiming being married to each other. I don't know them. Strangers. I don't know them strangers. I don't know them strangers. You said two strangers was inside a hotel room claiming being married to each other, having a marriage license certificate. What the trouble was then? So you're saying the two strangers claiming being married to each other was inside a hotel room attempting following the ways of my God. Are you saying when the two strangers was inside of the hotel room, the two strangers had a marriage license certificate, and the two strangers was claiming being married to each other when it happened? And you saying one of the strangers was going crazy and tried leaving outside of the hotel room, is what you saying? Then what happened? I don't know. It's your story. You talking about two strangers. I'm listening to you. Just saying the two strangers was in the hotel room claiming being married to each other with a marriage license certificate of evidence of a marriage. And it was only two people inside the hotel room. The two strangers. Mm-hmm. They saying the two strangers seemed being a girl and a boy. They saying both of the strangers was over the age of 21 years old, being grown. Mm-hmm. They saying the two strangers was inside a hotel room. And it was only two people inside the hotel room. Then what happened? What would the problem have been? You said one of the strangers had a twin sister who is a stranger because I don't know them. And then, while the two strangers was inside the hotel room claiming being married to each other, one of the strangers was going crazy and attempted leaving out the hotel room. And the stranger claiming being married to him said she didn't want him leaving out the hotel room because of what? The stranger thought the stranger was in love with her twin sister, who is a stranger. Then what happened? The stranger told the stranger that he would have to fight her in order to leave the hotel room. Oh, because the stranger said she was not giving up her husband because the stranger claimed being in love with her own husband. And the stranger was claiming being married to the other stranger who was inside the hotel with her, is what you are saying. Both of the strangers who was inside of the hotel room was claiming being married to each other. But then what the problem was? I don't know either. I don't know them. You saying the strangers. And what happened then? Oh. So when the two strangers was inside the hotel room, the stranger who claimed being the wife told the stranger who claimed being the husband that he would have to fight her in order to leave out the hotel room because she didn't want him leaving her for her sisters. And so then the stranger started fighting her because she instructed him into fighting her. And he stopped. Well, then what happened? So you're saying two strangers, I don't know them, was inside of a hotel room claiming being married to each other with a marriage license certificate of evidence of being married. And the stranger who was claiming being the wife instructed the stranger who was claiming being the husband into fighting her. And the stranger who claimed being the husband was fighting her because the stranger who claimed being the wife of the stranger who claimed being the husband was instructed into fighting her. And then what happened? So the stranger who claimed being the husband was hitting the stranger who claimed being the wife of the husband. And then the stranger said it feels wrong fighting her and stopped. It makes sense he stopped. Then what happened? Oh. So you're saying the problem was a stranger from outside of the hotel room being a stranger from outside of the marriage. The strangers, you said two strangers claimed to being married, having a marriage license. So then strangers from outside of the hotel invaded the hotel room of the stranger? Why? If the two strangers was not fighting each other and it was no crime going on, then I don't understand what happened. So you're saying the strangers claimed to being police officers and had arrested the stranger who claimed to being the husband for family violence. Family violence. Wait a minute. How would it be family violence? Was the two strangers brother and sister? Was the two strangers a mother and child? Or one of those daddy-daughter type relationships? Was it one of those cousin marriages and stuff like that those strangers was claiming? Because I don't understand why it would be called family violence. Oh, you saying it was called family violence because when the charges was pressed of family violence, it means evidence of claiming being married because you saying since both of the strangers who was inside of the hotel room are not related to each other, the charge of family violence is what it was, meaning whoever the strangers was, whoever had pressed charges, was accusing the strangers of being married and was accusing the strangers of being a household. It still doesn't really make sense. Yeah, exactly, because if the two strangers was inside of their own household, and since there was not a fight going on inside of the household of the two strangers, then why was the stranger who claimed being the husband in jail or arrested when it happened? I don't know either. Oh, you're saying the problem was caused because of a stranger from outside of the marriage of the two strangers. So the stranger from outside of the marriage caused the problems, is what you're saying. But the stranger is not part of the marriage. If two strangers was inside of a hotel room, wait a minute. When the strangers came inside of the hotel room of the two strangers, was it a fight going on? And then, the stranger who was claiming being a police officer had broke up the fight and then took the stranger to jail who claimed being the husband? Or was it all lies and a false charge? Oh, so you're saying the stranger who claimed being a police officer, when he came inside of the hotel of the two strangers who claimed being married, there was no fight going on between the stranger claiming being the husband and the stranger claiming being the wife. So there was no crime going on inside the household of the two strangers who claimed being married to each other. Exactly. So saying the crime is when the stranger who claimed to being a police officer had went inside of the hotel room of the two strangers and had arrested the stranger who claimed to be the husband of the stranger who claimed being the wife. Yes, it does sound like a crime. Because it sounds like the stranger who claimed being a police officer tried being a threesome inside the marriage of two strangers. Wow. No, I'm not interested in a threesome. And you said the strangers was not interested in a threesome either. So you saying what the stranger who claimed being a police officer did was a crime? Exactly. Because if a marriage is two people, one being a husband and one being a wife, the way you said those strangers was inside the hotel room, then the crime seems what the third person who claimed being a police officer did when the third person went inside the hotel room attempting at being the king or queen or ruler of some stranger's marriage, attempting forcing a threesome or his opinion or her opinion inside of someone else's marriage, inside of a stranger's marriage. And it seems it was kidnapping, you know, if the stranger who claimed being the husband never voluntarily instructed the stranger who claimed being the police into arresting him. Did the stranger who claimed being married to the stranger who claimed being a husband, is there evidence of her instructing the police officer into arresting the stranger who claimed being her husband? You're saying it's not. Is there body cam evidence of the arrest? Is what they say is very important. You're saying it's not. So you're saying it's no evidence of the person, you know, the stranger who claimed to being the wife, accusing the stranger who claimed being the husband at all. Is what you're saying? Do you have video evidence? Do you have a body cam? Is there any evidence at all? Is what they say. You know? So saying a stranger who claimed being a police officer intentionally arrested a stranger inside of a hotel room and has no evidence of a crime. Exactly, because if the stranger's wife instructed the stranger who was, you know, claiming being married to her into hitting her, then it is not a crime if the stranger who was claiming being the husband inside of his own marriage life certificate household was hitting the stranger who claimed being his wife inside of his own marriage life certificate household, because she, the stranger who claimed being his wife, instructed the stranger, you know, who was said being the husband of his own household into hitting her. Then what happened? So saying he went to jail, the stranger who claimed being the husband? Well, who pressed charges? Did the stranger who claimed, was the stranger who claimed being his wife setting him up in a trap or something, or some kind of scam or something? Oh, that part. You're saying the stranger who claimed being the wife was spoke of having a stranger who claimed being a twin sister to the stranger who... Oh, isn't it was some kind of identity crime of using the name and identity of the stranger who claimed being married to the stranger who claimed being, you know, the husband and wife of the situation of those strangers. I don't know them. You seem to know more about it than I do. Then what happened? You say it seems weird. What? What? Oh, it does seem weird. Yeah, it's crazy. Exactly. Just saying, a stranger who claimed being the wife of the stranger from the situation with the two strangers inside the hotel room claiming being married. The stranger who claimed being the wife ran away to a battered women's shelter for abused women, while the stranger who claimed being the husband was in jail when it happened. It doesn't make any sense. If she, the stranger instructed the stranger who claimed being married to her into hitting her, then it means it was her idea of him hitting her, and she was not scared of him, and she was not in fear of him, because she, being the stranger who claimed being his wife, instructed him into hitting her. So it would make no sense of running away to a battered women's shelter for abused women, claiming being in fear of the stranger who claims being married to her. Exactly. So saying it's how the strangers got caught, because the story of the strangers makes no sense. So then what happened? Hey, I don't even know why you telling me all of this. So then what happened? For a long time. So saying the stranger who claimed being the husband was in jail for a long time. How long? More than a year. And then what happened? So saying the stranger was locked up years, calendar years. Three calendar years. When did this happen? The calendar year of 2015, the calendar year of 2016, and the calendar year of 2017? Oh, it's why you telling me, because I was locked up those same calendar years. But I don't know them. I don't know them. No, I don't know them strangers. Okay, I see why you telling me, you know. Oh, okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying now. So then what happened? In 2017, the stranger who claimed being the husband had gone to a drug court program because of drugs. And then what happened? Years. Oh, because drug court being a 2-year program, and it was years of trouble did to him, the stranger, because of the stranger who claimed to be a police officer had arrested him. They said the wife was at every court date. You know, the stranger who claimed being the wife of the stranger was at every court date, mad at the court. They saying the stranger who claimed being the wife was at drug court with him, you know, the stranger who claimed being the husband. You saying both of the strangers who claimed being married was at drug court every court day together, claiming being married? No, I don't know them. No, I don't know them strangers. No, I never attended a drug court. No, I was in a mental health court. It's different, you know. Are you saying the strangers was following the teachings of my God and got in trouble for copying? Wait a minute. What did you say? Hold on. You know, I believe in the God of saving my virginity for the purpose of being married to one female spouse only ever in life. So, you know, I saved my virginity for the purpose of being married, you know. Meaning I never had sex outside of the identity of what my marriage license certificate says my marriage is. Exactly. So saying the strangers was confused of what the strangers did wrong. Did the stranger, you know, did the stranger claiming being the husband or the stranger claiming being the wife, did either one of the strangers, you know, have evidence of having the character of saving virginity for the purpose of being married? Oh. Now I see. Now I see. Now I see what the problem is. You know, it only works if following the one and only step of saving virginity for the purpose of being married to one spouse only ever in life, and never having voluntary going all the way sex outside of the identity of, you know, what the marriage license certificate says the marriage is, you know, if those strangers claim to being married to each other, and if those strangers have a marriage license certificate of evidence of claiming of being married, then, you know, but, you know, since you saying that he had other baby mamas and he had sex with different people, you know, the stranger had sex with different people voluntarily, and the stranger had different baby mamas and stuff, then it doesn't work in those situations. No. You saying that the girl, the stranger who he claimed being married to, was a virgin when he got with her? Then I don't see what the problem would be. You know, as long as one of them was a virgin, you know, the two strangers, you know, because I don't know them, strangers, I don't understand what the problem would be, you know. Oh, it doesn't work then. It doesn't work then. No. If the stranger paid for a bride, it doesn't work, you know. If the stranger bought her virginity, you know, then it doesn't work. It's no way of the stranger being saved. If the stranger, you know, if the virginity was sold to the stranger, it's no way of being saved. It doesn't work. If the stranger's mom or dad or family or, you know, the stranger, if the stranger had some kind of pimp or was being sold or sex trafficked and stuff like that with the virginity, then, you know, it doesn't work. You know, there's no way of being saved, you know, for the person who sold a virginity, or for the person who bought a virginity, or for a person who stole a virginity. You know, if a person took the virginity of a person, you know, if a person forced, you know, a person into having sex, taking the virginity, it doesn't work. There's no way of being saved if a person took the virginity, you know, because taking, they say, means stealing. And since virginity is, you know, a gift of being given, then it makes no sense taking the virginity, because there's no way of being saved if the stranger took a virginity. And it makes no sense buying a virginity, because there's no way of being saved, you know, if the person bought, you know, a virginity. And it makes no sense, you know, selling a virginity, because, you know, there's no way of being saved if, you know, a person sold a virginity. Exactly. The buyer of the virginity cannot be saved. The seller of the virginity cannot be saved. The taker of the virginity cannot be saved, because taking a virginity is stealing a virginity, and it is a sex crime So the taker of the virginity cannot be saved, you know, which is why it makes no sense of taking a virginity, you know, stealing a virginity, you know, selling a virginity, or buying a virginity, you know. It's what they say, you know, from what I was taught, you know, from what my tribe teaches me. So I think, you know, the problem, you know, was, you know, I think the problem is, you know, buying a virginity, selling a virginity, taking a virginity, stealing a virginity, you know, it means no way of being saved for the person who was buying a virginity, stealing a virginity, taking a virginity, or selling a virginity. So, you know, it's not my fault, you know. And I don't know them, you know, because of them being strangers, I don't know them, you know. So the strangers told lies, you know, of following my God. What do I mean of the strangers told lies? What I'm saying is the strangers told lies. Evidence would show if the strangers had followed the teachings of my God, it would be evidence of saving virginity for the purpose of being married and never having sex outside of the identity of what the marriage life certificate says the marriage is. And evidence would show of never buying a virginity, never stealing a virginity, never taking a virginity, and never selling a virginity. Because there is no way of being saved for the stranger who bought a virginity, stole a virginity, took a virginity, you know, or sold a virginity, you know. There's no way of being saved for a person who bought a virginity, who sold a virginity, who took a virginity, you know. There's no way of being saved for a person who bought a virginity, who took a virginity, who sold a virginity, or who stole a virginity, you know. It only works when a virginity is given, you know. No, it's not a courtroom type of situation because, you know, no matter what a court writes on paper or no matter what a police officer writes on paper, if a virginity was bought or sold or stole or taken, there's no way of the person being saved, you know, who bought a virginity, stole a virginity, sold a virginity, or took a virginity. Because those are crimes, you know, of a higher authority, and there is no forgiveness for them. Is what I was told, you know. Which is why I never had sex outside of the identity of what my marriage license certificate says my marriage is. And I never made anyone into a single mom or single mother. And, you know, I never instructed anyone into buying a virginity, selling a virginity, taking a virginity, or stealing a virginity. You know, I never instructed anyone into being a sex worker, a prostitute, a stripper, a escort, or, you know, any sex crimes. Exactly. I don't know them. Exactly. Yes. Some stranger claimed being 19 years old, you know, and some stranger claimed being 17 years old, and some stranger claimed being 15 years old. I don't know them. Exactly. Those strangers claim being related to me and knowing me, but I don't know them. Because if those strangers who claim being 19 years old, 17 years old, and 15 years old were strangers knowing me, then the strangers would know I had my own apartment, being the head of household, being the only one with a source of income when I moved into my first apartment in the city of Warrior, Alabama, you know, in the month of May, in the year of 2004, you know, the same apartments, you know, I lived in August 31st, 2004 and July 18th, 2006. You know, the same way, if those strangers who claimed knowing me, if those strangers knowed me, those strangers would know I was the only one with a source of income inside of my household October 6, 2008. You know, the same way. If those strangers claimed being 19 years old, 17 years old, and 15 years old, then those strangers would be saying the same thing I'm saying, you know, because, you know, the truth. And since what I am saying is evidence of where I was and where I am, because the evidence matches exactly my household of where I was and where I'm at, then it seems those strangers would be in trouble for what they say is defamation of character and slander and all kind of mental and sexual, emotional abuse did to me from those strangers using the identity of my marriage license certificate causing trouble to me. When I have evidence of being a mental health patient ever since elementary school, you know, and, you know, the same way, a mental health patient in middle school, and then, you know, after the 6th grade, in the summertime of the 6th grade, evidence of claims of car accident, being physically disabled, happened to me, you know, through no fault of my own, you know, because I drove a lot of cars and I was never hitting anyone's body or flesh or bone with a car. So I don't understand why it ever happened to me, since I was not the cause of it, you know. So, you know, I told, you know, I don't know them. And it's crazy because, you know, some stranger claims being the mom of the strangers, you know. Some stranger claims being the mom of the 17-year-old stranger, the 19-year-old stranger, and the 15-year-old stranger, you know. And the stranger who claims being the mom of those strangers claimed, you know, crazy claims with no evidence of matching the character of where I was and where I am, you know. So I don't know them, you know. So I told, so it would be evidence, exactly. And this is Brown. I'm recording this phone call. This is a cigar. So it's no way of accusing me of, illegal street drugs. I don't know them. Exactly. Some strangers had used the identity of my marriage license certificate. And they say those strangers would be in trouble for slander and defamation of character of, false claims of knowing me, when I don't know them. And my identity does not match the character of them, strangers, of what strangers said, and I don't know them. Yes, I am married, which is why I stay inside of my marriage license certificate household. Because, being married, I'm not interested in throwing my life away for strangers. Mm-mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. No, I am not suicidal. Mm-mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. This video is part of my journal and my diary because strangers was telling lies, of where I was and where I'm at. And, being a mental health patient myself, I forget a lot. So, video evidence, in case, strangers was telling lies,